There is a moment in every life when you decide to rise, to stand taller than your fear, to speak louder than your doubt, to chase the vision that sets your soul on fire. This is that moment, and here we walk it together with stories that awaken, voices that inspire, and truths that set you free. This is Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where hope has a voice, and that voice is yours. And welcome to the show, everybody. We've got a great show for you today. I know, I say that a lot, but I really do. And I really mean it. We've got a gentleman by the name of Rand Selig. And if Selig rings a bell and you're a baseball fan, then you would recognize that he is related to Bud, who was the commissioner for a couple of decades and stuff. He's retired now. And there aren't very many Seligs out there, but apparently there's a real estate guy around in my neck of the woods that is really, really good. And he's related to Rand as well. But Rand is a member of his own right because he's an author and he's got a great book out, and it's very much in line with what we talk about here. And it's a book on positivity. I'll give you the name of the book. And if you go to randselig.com, you can look for it. It's called Thriving: How to Create a Healthier, Happier, and More Prosperous Life. Rand, thank you for coming, and thank you for being here. You are in the beautiful area of Northern California. It's a great area down there.
Well, it's great to be here with you, Kevin. And you've got a nice little background there. Way up there, I can see. I think it's is a Mount Rainier in the background of your beautiful.
Yeah, that's right. They tell me that it's supposed to erupt every 500 years, and it's been 600 since the last time it erupted. So if I have to leave suddenly, that's why.
That's the positive talk we're looking for.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, Rand, tell our audience a little bit about yourself and your background and how you ended up writing a book about positivity.
Well, I like to answer that question by saying that I picked my parents really well. My dad, his first career was in the U.S. Army. He passed away a year ago at the age of 102, peacefully in his sleep, and we buried him at Arlington National Cemetery with full military honors.
That's a big deal, by the way.
He's a big deal. He was a towering figure. Learned a lot from him. Very grateful for him, but he was also he was a tough guy, and it was tough to build a relationship with him. But I did. I was able to do that by realizing I had to make the change. Mom, very smart scientist, learned a lot from her, how to play bridge, how to play tennis, loved to read. My love of nature comes from Mom. And I say both had service. So I rub my tummy and say, that was a great foundation. I built the rest on top of that. So that led me to, being very committed to service, very committed to excellence, which I bring into everything I do, relationships, projects I take on. And I've been on 18 boards. I've been a Scoutmaster, a Little League coach. I do conservation work, roll up my sleeve work rather than sit on and blab with my mouth. And not that isn't important sometimes. And I've run my own investment banking firm for over 3 decades, and I'm very pleased to say we were just named the best investment banking firm in California by Acquisition International. So we did that because we have a proprietary system of approaching our clients with a service mentality, not a sales mentality. So all this led me to write the book. I've met thousands of people, clients, parents, board members, young lads and ladies embarking on their future in sports or in academics. And it led me to conclude a lot of things about what is thriving and what is not thriving.
Oh, exactly. And first of all, I gotta say this about your dad. He passed away at 102, which means that he probably was in the service around the time of World War II.
He absolutely served in World War II, Korea and Vietnam. He was honored by the president of France when he was 95. I finally got around to making him a Chevalier of the Legion of Honor. So he was knighted, and for his service in World War II, helping to liberate France.
That the stories, and I hope that you have some of those stories from his whole life.
Have them absolutely. I and my sister have been very diligent about getting those stories, and Dad wrote 2 books, so that helps also to know kind of what his story was. We have pictures, and we spent a lot of time getting ready for a memorial service and the funeral, so that it was all really very compact and clear.
And for those of you who don't know, Arlington National Cemetery is where military men who have had exemplary service to their country are buried. And so it's a big deal to
Yeah.
be buried in Arlington.
Yeah, absolutely. I get goosebumps when I think about it, and I can picture the the senior person getting the folded flag, which was on the coffin, and he took a knee and handed it to me, and that famous line, "On behalf of a grateful nation."
That had to give you goosebumps.
It most definitely did. And then I got the shell casings from the 21 gun salute. I have those too. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing because, and the reason I bring it up is that World War II happened 80 years ago. And so there are a lot of people who do not have the history knowledge or the desire for history knowledge to understand the greatest generation and what those people did. And your dad had to be a tough guy to do all to be in World War II and then Korea and then Vietnam. And by the way, thank you to a grateful nation for his service.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Yeah. No, when I was a little kid, I used to think my dad should be a judge because he was morally, his moral compass was just so good. And he was tough. I learned a lot from him: moral compass, discipline, how to plan. Really, really good things. I mean, they as I was saying, they kind of made me who I am, that part of me. And, fortunately, I've got mom too.
Boy, and boy, you're not a kid, and you were really lucky having them as parents. I tend to think that was the plan all along, but that's just me.
Well, that's right. I mean, it's like when you make a stew and you put a lot of good things in the stew, and then you got to stir it and you got to let it sit overnight, and then it kind of marinates or does something, and gets even more delicious and more nutritious. And so I attribute a lot to them, but I also have to say I went from there with it, and I created a life for myself. I believe I can design my own life. I have designed my own life, and I believe other people can too. It's a really big theme in my book and in all my talks, whether I'm on a podcast or in person or wherever I am. This is
That's
powerful.
first of all, can I steal that from you?
Please
The
do.
stew,
No
the stew.
stealing, just free to you.
Because that is so true. And if you create a stew and then you sit down that night for dinner, wait 24 hours, let it marinate, and then reheat it, and you're going to find that the flavors blend together in a magical way, and it really is a much better product, similar to how we are,
Yeah.
because we don't
Yeah.
always have the best things happen to us or the worst thing that happens to us, but it's a combination of the experiences that we have, the guidance that we've gotten from folks that we love and who take care of us, and then we get to strike out on our own to do our own thing, which is what you've done, and it really is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, and I think we also have to, be self-aware. We got to build support. We got to get feedback. We got to ask for feedback. Feedback isn't the most common thing around. We got to learn from our mistakes, and that way we can get better and better, and continue to evolve in life. That's an important thing to do.
Exactly, and learning from your mistakes is kind of a big deal, isn't it?
It is. It takes a lot to learn. Well, one, you got to admit, you got to be honest and say, hey, wait a minute, uh, I didn't do that right. I wasn't the person I could have been. It was not the person I think I am now, but it was the person I did that before. I have to admit that I did it. And you can't point the finger. You can't say, oh, I did it because the boss was bad or something like that. No, you got to say, I have to take responsibility. Now, it doesn't mean there was nobody else involved. It doesn't mean that everything was in your control, but you have to take a look at that and say, okay, what am I going to learn from this? How am I going to turn this into a valuable lesson?
Exactly, because you can't control anybody else, but you can control yourself and how you
Wow.
respond to things.
Wow. This is a really critical point you just touched on, Kevin, is this issue of learning to let go. And for me, this was a really tough thing because I thought I was in control. I was running my company. I was doing all this stuff. My kids said I was a big swashbuckler. Okay, great. That's all terrific. But then, through my wife's help and comments from my two terrific children, they made me realize I don't control all that much. What I control is only four things. Only four things. I control my attitude. I control the amount of effort I'm willing to put into something. I can control my behavior, usually, and then I can decide and make choices about my actions. So everything else after that is either out of complete control, it's like the weather, or it's other people. And that, what can I do about that? I can influence them. And if I'm doing a good job, I have more influence. And if I'm doing a bad job, my influence diminishes.
And the influence that you have, it's important for people to understand that you create that influence.
Yeah.
And you get to choose whether or not that influence is going to be for good or
Mhm.
for, like not so good. And that's kind of your deal that you get to choose. And I'm excited to have you here talking about this because this is something, Positive Talk has been around for, since 2003. And it is my passion and my mission that we can all be kind to one another. It doesn't take anything to be kind to somebody else. It doesn't cost any money. And you can do all the things in life that you choose to do if you do it in a positive way, which is why I'm sure that's why you wrote the book. But before we get to the book, you also are a financial guy, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, an investment banker. So I deal with companies and I deal with their transactions, big, complicated transactions, mostly merger and acquisition business.
Oh, that gives me a headache to even think about. That's way complicated. But you have a passion for it.
Well, I have a passion for it because I want to help people, and these owners of companies, I deal only with private companies, come to me and they really want to move on in life. They want to sell their company. Sometimes they want to buy out a partner, and so this is really important to them. And they use the word retirement. And I go, well, wait a minute. Well, we're going to talk about this more. I want to understand your objectives. But in our conversations, please use the word rewirement because there's going to be something after we finish this transaction, after you so-called ride into the sunset on your terrific horse. There's going to be another you showing up, and I want to make sure you know that, and that we have a chance to talk about that, so that you don't have buyer's remorse, you don't feel badly about the transaction in any way.
Do you ever, and we'll talk more about this on the other side of the break, but do you ever have a conversation with somebody that when he's been an entrepreneur and he's worked and he's sweated and he's given it all and stuff, and then he says, I want to retire, I'm tired. And have you ever asked anybody, have you asked your wife what she thinks about that? Because that's her house that you're now going to be inhabiting.
The stories around that, Kevin, as you know, are not pretty stories. It's a tough thing on a lot of relationships. You got to kind of redo the relationship in some ways. You got to find something to do with this newfound time that is worthy of you. I mean, these are people who have built a company. They've had responsibilities. They've built a service or a product. They've had, all kinds of people reporting to them. They've had a Rolodex, a whole contact base. A lot of that goes away. And so they've got to replace that with something that really is something they want to be doing, that gives them a sense of mission, as you were talking about.
I wish you had written the book and were around to talk to my dad before he passed away 15 years ago. I'm going to tell that story when we come right back. We're talking with Rand Selig. Go to his website, which is randselig.com. He's got a great book. It's about positivity, and we are going to be back and talk about that and all of the things that go with that, because it's not cupcakes and rainbows. It's actually a big thing that you can change your life and you can live your best life, but it's not easy sometimes, and you got to work at it. And we'll be right back. The Fire That Doesn't Die by Positive Talk Radio. Success never shows up overnight. It tests you. It breaks you. It asks, how much do you want it and how badly do you believe? Amazon answered that question for 9 long years with no profits, only vision. At Positive Talk Radio, our fight began in 2003. Self-funded, no spotlight, no guarantees, only faith that hope and love can change lives. For over 2 decades now, we've kept showing up, keep speaking light into the darkness. And now, hey, we're still here, stronger, louder, inspiring hearts across the world. Because true greatness isn't measured by how fast you rise, but by how long you refuse to fall. And welcome back. We're talking with Rand Selig. Go to his website, which is randselig.com. He's got a great book out. It's called Thriving: How to Create a Healthier, Happier, and More Prosperous Life. And Rand, I got to tell you this story, and I've told it on the show quite a bit, but it bears repeating, because I grew up in a house where my dad worked 60 hours a week. He worked for Nordstrom for 30 years. He was an executive for them, and he was head of children's shoes, head of ladies' shoes, and he would travel and buy shoes. Anyway, and when he was 60, they basically said, well, you've had a good run here, and here's your package, and have a nice day. And so he had been known as Mr. McDonald. Everybody was scared when he would walk into a department. They want to make sure that everything's dusted and everything's the right way. And everybody was, he's coming. And then he was just Jack, which is his first name. And nobody cared about Jack the way that they did when he was in business. And he didn't know how to replace his life with something meaningful that he could do. He didn't have it in him. And we talked about it, and it was like, Dad, you got to do something. And so he played golf for a while, and then he fell down and hurt himself and couldn't play anymore. And so he sat on the couch until the day he died. Yeah. And that I was thinking about that's not a very good life. I mean, he had portions of it which were really good, but isn't it the totality of everything that we do and the service that we can bring to everybody, regardless of how old we are?
Yeah, completely right. Completely right. And I talk to people, high school kids, college kids, people going through transitions, the retirement slash rewirement business, and even people in retirement homes. And the people in retirement homes, one of the things I tell them is you have to have purpose. You have to have purpose all the way to the end. And they look at me with these big eyes and say, "Well, our purpose is to get up tomorrow and have a yummy lunch." And I go, "Hey, look, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're looking forward to lunch. But let me tell you about purpose. Purpose doesn't have to be this big headline grabbing thing. It can be when you're kind, when you're asking people questions, you're interested in them. You offer to help them because you've been here for a few years and they just came and they don't know stuff that you know about living here. So be that kind of person. And they look at me and they nod their head and go, yeah, yeah. Now I have another really something to focus on. And it's this thing that a lot of people. I recommend that people, no matter what age they are, but in their 30s, 40s, whenever, start thinking about their legacy. This is not the end story that gets written up on your tombstone. I'm talking about something that you write. It's about who you are. You can revise it, another few years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever, but then start living it now. Be that person. Live, breathe life into that kind of person. And when people have a big career, like your dad did, and that's a story. I'm sorry to hear that story from you, Kevin, but it's not an uncommon story that somebody gets off, something they've been doing at the workplace. They've been earning money. They've been respected. They had power. They had a certain amount of authority, and all of a sudden they don't have it. And who are they? They become almost a hollow shell. And that's avoidable. It's completely avoidable along the way, long before it happens, so that you just kind of move almost seamlessly from having the title, having the job, and into this other person that you are and have always been.
And why is it that you think that people do not, like my dad, people do not recognize that? They think they are what they did, not the person that they are.
Well, our world is kind of constructed in two things. There's an external world, which is the doing world. This is where you have the title, you have the office, you're making money, you're spending money, you're planning, you're spending your time doing things, whatever they are, taking vacations and playing golf, and you're doing. But there's this other world, which is the being world. This is where you are being a kind of a person, where you stand up for things you believe in, and you also point to things that you do not believe in, will not stand for, and you become that person. And the strongest way to live life is to be a kind of person, where you're treasuring your relationships much more than treasuring your possessions. You're being the kind of person. Zig Ziglar, the great motivational speaker, said, be the kind of person when if somebody said something bad about you, no one would believe it. And I think to myself, wow, is that a high standard? But wouldn't that be a great thing to have happen? So you can be that kind of person. And if you're that person and then you do, then you're going to be a lot more fulfilled. You're going to be a lot less stress. You're going to be a lot happier. So it emanates from this inner self that stands for something, that you can continue to improve, that you believe in yourself, that you love yourself, and then share that outward in the things you do, whether it's on the golf course or wherever you are in that relationship with somebody who just brought you a cup of coffee.
Well, exactly. And, you know, I get to talk to a lot of really powerfully motivated, positive people. And one of the things that they all tell me is that it's not do, it's not be and then have. It is be and then have and then do. And that is a complete an oxymoron in our world, because no,
Yeah.
you got to do this, you got to go do this, and if you do this and stuff, you're going to be happy. Well, you know what happens, and I think you have talked to a lot of guys that have been this. They've been successful their whole life, and they've been doing this and doing all of that, but there's a point in time when they realize, okay, I have the house, I have the wife. Okay, now I've got the younger wife, and I've got all of these things but I'm not happy. I thought this would be the things that would make me happy. I'd have enough money and I'd be able to go do stuff. Well, that's not ultimately what makes us happy in life, in my opinion. What's your opinion?
Well, you've touched on an enormously important topic. We have in our society an idea that success is about financial stuff and
Yeah.
about material possessions too. And, of course, we want to have a lifestyle, a comfort around that. But real success is not about that. It's a portion of that, but it's not that with any degree of outsized importance. I've met a lot of wealthy people in my career, my life, and I've helped them become even wealthier by selling their company. But I had to say, as I thought about these people, very fine people, very talented, very hardworking, that they were not successful. Why? Because look at their relationships, failed in the business and in their personal life. Ex-wife not talking to them, kids not talking to them. And look what they did to themselves. They were working so hard at what they were doing, they didn't take care of themselves. The self-care of it was not there. And so now they're getting ill. They're not strong, physically strong. This is not a recipe. So I have another way of thinking about success. And so again, it's kind of like in the B world. What do I define success as being? Well, I think of success as living authentically. What does that mean? Well, that means that my values and my actions are completely aligned, that I live with vitality. Why? Because I like what I'm doing. I'm energized. I get feedback that it's good. I take care of myself, so physically I'm able to, get on with things. I have a purpose. I have mission, which is, how do you live? How do you keep moving forward, past the time when you don't need to work for a living anymore? What do? Purpose, mission. It goes well beyond that job that you had. You got to be positive. You got to be positive. Being positive actually adds 7 to 8 years to your life. And I think they're happier years also. You got to be grateful. You got to have peace of mind. These are just a few of the ones that when I, think about what is success, am I successful? And I like to think I am, but I have to keep working at it, because there will be times when, hey, I fell off. I was not, having the peace of mind. There's something going on that was really upsetting me, bothering me. I had to work at it, but then I work on it. I'm become self-aware. I know myself. I go, okay, dial into that one, work on that one.
Do you find, because you and I have both been on, shall I say, on the planet for a little while now, and do you find that because you live with this lifestyle, that it's not a matter of, okay, I'm going to retire and then I'm going to sit. It's a matter of, okay, what's next? I get to do whatever it is. And if you're playing it right, with the help of someone like Rand, you can retire and not have to worry about the day-to-day existence of yourself and feeding yourself and all that. So that gives you the time to then be excited about the future. I see so many people that are older, they've lost that excitement. They
Right.
don't have the excitement of life, and that every day, just walking outside of your house, and if you can't see where Rand is. He's in the middle of a forest. He's got a great background. He can leave his house and suddenly be in nature.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
is, and I assume that you are have gratitude for the fact that you are now able to do that, and it means something to you. Am I wrong in that, or am I right?
Well, there's a lot of what you just said, Kevin, that is completely right. Let me talk about this last part first. We have power to make decisions. One of the I've made a lot of great decisions in my life, but one of them was choosing to move here 40 years ago. I didn't want to live in a city. I wanted to live in nature. So yes, I can go right out of my door. I can go out and run. I can take a hike. The neighbors drive down the road slowly, and I can wave at them and say, "Hey, have a great day," blah, blah, blah. This is all good stuff. But the other part of this is thinking about freedom. Freedom is an enormously important thing to assess. Do you have it? Is it in your life? And I'm talking about 4 particular freedoms. I'm talking the freedom of time. So a lot of people work really hard and they can't wait to retire. Again, use the word rewire, because then they'll have more time to do whatever they want, but they don't really know what that is. So that can lead to a problem. But if you have freedom of time, then you can focus on things that are important to you, that give you meaning. They can give you time to rejuvenate and, engage with things that are important to you. Second freedom is freedom of money. Of course, this is, a pathway. If you don't have the money, the grease that allows you to move forward, then you're struggling. And we want to get past that, of course. But having the freedom of money means that it's a very qualitative thing. It's not quantitative. A lot of people think, well, if I could just look at my savings account, my investment account, that tells the whole story. Well, no, it's a qualitative thing. A third freedom is the freedom of purpose. Oh my gosh. So that's not a thing about being 60 or 80 years old. This is a thing you bake in as a person, hopefully very early in your life. What is my purpose? It's based on your uniqueness. It's based on what you are willing to contribute and are excited about doing that. You pursue that with some energy, with it's an expression of yourself. And then the fourth freedom is the freedom of relationship, and that's with yourself. I like to say the most important relationship you'll ever have in your life is the one with yourself. And then relationship with others, which gives you the possibility of helping others, of learning from others, of getting support when you need it. These are 4 very important freedoms.
By the way, we're talking with Rand Selig, and go to his website, which is randselig.com, and you can get the book, which I highly recommend, Thriving: How to Create Healthier, Happier, and how to create a healthier, happier, and more prosperous life. We need to take our halftime break, which we're beyond halftime, but that's okay because I'm the boss and I get to say. So anyway, we'll be right back after this, and listen to this piece that I'm going to play. I really, really like, and I think it can be universally applied. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
The strength of staying kind from your friends at Positive Talk Radio. Kindness is not weakness. It takes real strength to stay kind in a world that often rewards anger, ego, and control. Being kind means choosing to act from your values, not your wounds. It means showing grace even when no one's watching. But kindness doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean letting people take advantage of your time, your energy, or your peace. You can be kind and still say no. You have a soft heart with firm boundaries. The strongest people I know are the ones who choose compassion without losing themselves. They've been hurt. They've been tested. and still they choose to love and lead and to lift others anyway. Kindness is not about pleasing everybody. It's about honoring who you are and how you treat others, even when it's hard. So stay kind, stay human, and stay strong. And always remember this: be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Rochelle's off today, and Rand Selig is with us, and he is a dynamic force in the world today. I think it's appropriate for me to say that. First of all, let me ask you, what did you think of that thing about kindness?
Well, it was just so terrific. It was so terrific, and it talked about the nuances and dispelled some of the myths that people want to say. Like kindness is weakness. No. That's I don't know who's promoting that idea, but that's just flat out wrong.
and I couldn't agree with you more, because kindness can be really hard when you're trying to remain kind when somebody is being difficult to you.
Yeah.
But you can do that, and that's part of, I think, who we are. And you, Rand, I know you are a service-oriented man, and that's one of the things that you've always done in your financial world and stuff, is you're of service to others. I can't think of a higher calling than that. Can you?
I think that's where it really is. Absolutely. The great coach John Wooden said you can't have a perfect day without being of service to somebody else, without any sense of reciprocity.
And for those of you who don't know who John Wooden is, he was one of the best and most influential basketball coaches that has ever existed on this planet.
I want to add something to your beautiful video, Kevin, if I may, and that is the importance of listening. That's a kind of a kindness.
Thank you.
People want to talk. They want to be seen. They want to be appreciated. And one of the most important things we can do is listen and ask questions, because their story sometimes is complicated. They may not even fully understand their story, so they may be kind of wandering around with it. So listening, asking questions is very important. I was recently talking to somebody who was talking about their adult daughter, and the adult daughter was going on, and the person I know was thinking, I think they need some advice. But they stopped themselves and said, I wonder if they need me to listen, whether they need advice or whether they need a hug. So she asked her daughter, which of those three do you want? And the daughter said, I just want you to listen. I don't want any feedback. I don't want any advice. And I'm not ready for a hug right now.
That is so true. That is so true. Listening, by the way, I was in sales most of my life, and listening is a real art form. And it is something that if you don't do, then you're missing the essence of what somebody else is actually saying.
Yep. And you got to listen with more than your ears.
Yes.
People do a lot of communicating with their bodies, with their eyes, their facial expressions. So you got to catch all that. And that means you're really tuning in. You're not kind of distracted when they're going on. And when they're really going on, you got to double up. You're absolutely not looking out the window. You're not looking at your phone. You're on it. You're with them.
Have you ever noticed that when you do that with somebody, they notice it? Because it's not particularly common. And they say, well, I really appreciate you because you are really listening.
Yeah. Yeah. And, a thing I've been doing for a few years now, and it's so natural to me. It's so, just comes out, is the smile. It opens up people to want to be with me. They want to share a story. They see me with the smile of, come talk to Rand. And then I listen, and then I ask questions. And of course, I often tell them a joke too.
Well, and that's part of it. And even if, like I said, I think earlier in the show, that being kind and giving somebody a smile doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the ultimate results from that can be can be huge for you and for them. I drove a bus in Seattle for 12 years,
Yeah.
and my job, as I saw it, was to be kind and to smile at everybody that came onto the bus. Now, 20% of the people responded, 80% did not.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't my job.
Mm-hmm.
It had nothing to do with me. It had to do with, this is my integrity, my honesty. This is what I intended to do. So that at the end of the day, was I always successful? No, but I tried,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. No, that's good. That's absolutely the case. And another little ingredient, you were talking about making the stew and making it
yes,
yummy the next day. Well, I think there's a really huge role in being curious.
yes.
Being curious makes life fun, but it also has this other really amazing bonus of getting through difficult conversations. So imagine yourself sitting with somebody. Maybe you know them well. Maybe they're a friend. Maybe it's not so close in your relationship with them. But they start talking about something, and you think, "Wow, this person has bumped their head. They've gone a little wacko. I can't believe they're saying that stuff." But instead of saying, "Hey, where did you come up with this gobbledygook?" Which, do you think that's going to work? No, that's
No.
not going to work. Instead, you say, "Hey, I'm curious." Use that word. I'm curious. Where did you come up with that? I mean, you got to say it with, a genuine interest, and then they'll explain. And you don't rebut. You just ask more clarifying questions. Doesn't mean you have to change your view of the situation. And it could be that you decide you're not going to talk to that person about that topic anymore, but you've at least saved a relationship if you have one.
And in this day and age, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's quite a little bit of hate, division, and fear that is out there, and that happens all the time. It happens at Thanksgiving dinner with family members that go, I can't talk to this person because they are this and I am that, and rather than, can't you just let it be?
Yeah, yeah. Well, the curiosity also can lead to a little bit of the empathy and compassion.
Yes.
Where do they come from? What's going on with them that's causing them to think that? There's probably some underlying stuff. So maybe it's anger, maybe it's fear, maybe it's whatever. I mean, and that you can explore that, or at least you can at least open your mind to the possibility they're coming at this from this place that is creating that. It's not like they're just evil and they grew some horns one day. No, no. There's something else going on. And that curiosity can help play that role too.
What's interesting about that is that there are people and there are conversations that you can have if you're curious and if you listen, and you can find out that their common values are the same as yours.
Yeah.
They just came about it in a different way,
Yeah.
and think that they can get the same results that you're looking for with what they are believing. And
Yeah.
sometimes you're right. Sometimes you can't convince them. No, there's no convincing involved. You can't get them to either open up or to consider another viewpoint, and but that's okay too. Then they're going to. It's just the way it's going to be. At least that's kind of what I think about it. What do you think?
Well, I think that's right. I mean, there are times when you just have to say, I'm going to let it rest. I'm going to I'm going to move on for the sake of the relationship. I had to do that with my dad. I realized that he was not going to change, and what I need to do was take the reins to steer. And so I started respecting him more. Instead of being the young bull and against his old bull, I would listen more. I would give him more respect. I would hear a story that I'd heard many times before, but I'd listen to it and ask a better question. And sometimes we have to do that. We have to do that to preserve our own health as well as the health of the relationship. Um, there's
Rand, I need to take my last break, and it's just a 30-second break. But when we come back, I really want to focus on the book and the process that you took to write it and how it can be beneficial for people. I've got a brand new short that I just got this morning from my team, and I'd love to play it for you. So here you go, and we'll be back in 30 seconds. Here's another point to ponder by Positive Talk Radio. A woman spent years hating the reflection in her mirror. One day, she whispered, "I am enough." Day by day, her reflection became her friend. Self-love begins with the words you tell yourself. Speak gently, because you are listening. This is brought to you by Positive Talk Radio, where stories of hope come alive. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Rochelle's off today. Rand, what'd you think of that one? I love that one.
It's beautifully done. It's short. It's it just the words and the images are just sensational. Bravo on you and your team.
Well, and thank you. It's my mission in life. And that's why, I do 10 of these a day. I don't know. I do a bunch of these a week. And it's because people like you energize me, Rand. And one of the things that energized me the most is the process that you took to write the book. It just didn't appear out of nowhere. Explain the process that you used and what the book ultimately is about and what your purpose behind it is.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of authors, come at something, sit down and they write it, and it takes a little while, maybe a couple of years, who knows. But in my case, I started collecting stuff when I was in high school. I collected articles. I collected quotes I love. My book is filled with quotes. I collected thoughts of my own. I would read something and then jot something down, and I put it in this pile. I had a 4-foot high stack of papers, and
Wow.
I over the years kept looking and saying, I know there's several books in there, and I know there's several books inside me. And finally, I said, I'm going to write this book. I'm going to write it kind of as my philosophy of life, and I'm going to share it with my family and dear friends. And I wisely went to 3 friends who had written books and knew me really well. And I said, would you read this manuscript and tell me what you think? I don't care about the typos, but I do care if something's unclear, if you disagree with something, if I've missed something. And they all came back and said, no. I thought, oh, no. But what they then went on to say, each a little bit differently, but basically the same thing. This has to be a big book. You have to publish it. You have to get this in the hands of as many people as possible. The world needs it. People need it. And so I said, wow, thank you very much. Of course, they had very specific additional great suggestions, which I incorporated, but off I ran. So the book has got amazing testimonials. Again, going to the website, you'll see those. Over 200 5-star reviews. I mean, it just is happening. I keep getting invited to speak because people want to hear the messages that are included in my book. It's been love. It's been love, kind of just seeping through the pages. But love with action, with a how-to.
Exactly. And I want to ask you, because I am finding this more and more. People are looking for a different way of being and a much more positive way of being, because what we've been doing isn't particularly working out very well. Yeah. And so they're looking for this kind of material. And that's why your book has 200 5-star reviews.
Yeah, no, it's really true. I mean, let's face it, life is complex. There's a lot of headwinds. Nothing is an even, smooth thing. You're going along smoothly, and then there's a pothole. that is the nature of life. Life is filled with endings and beginnings. In the middle of all that is transitions, and sometimes those transitions are hard. You don't really know. You're disappointed to leave the last thing behind. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's a job you like. You're not sure what the future's going to hold for you. So there's a lot of complexity. I'm recrafted one of my talks coming up that's asking my listeners to think about what's holding them back. Where are the handcuffs in their lives? And I ask them, what do you have? What's not enough? Think about it. What is there not enough of in your life? Pause. Think about that. Do some homework. Then I say, okay, the other thing is, what do you have too much of? Maybe that's things like arrogance, or, many, many things that could be in the too much category as well. So that loosens up this whole thing of, okay, we can, once you understand that, what's holding you back from thriving, then you can now put your mind to shrinking those, maybe eliminating those, and then taking action forward. Take stuff forward that's going to lead to the life that's going to be fulfilling, that's going to be the life that is going to allow you to reach your potential, that's going to make you healthy and happy and prosperous. That's the life.
It's interesting when you say those things, because it's so true. Like I told you, I was driving a bus for 12 years, and I don't know the last time you rode a bus, but there are lots of bus drivers who are not very happy.
Yeah.
They're not very happy with the job that they have, but they have what's called the golden handcuffs.
Uh-huh.
It's because they make enough money and they've got good benefits. And so they put up with stuff, but it ends up costing them more than they know.
Yeah.
And they would be much better off if they don't like the job. I happen to like it because I found it to be a challenge. But if you don't like it, then quit. And they would say, oh, I can't quit. My wife is demanding that I make this kind of money because she's used to that and stuff. Well, he died at 66. He retired at 65. And many people do, because of the stress involved. And so he never, it's funny. He bought an RV and we're going to go traveling and we're going to do this. And then he had a heart attack and died.
I met a guy at the gym the other day, and he's a great guy. I've been talking to him for over a year. Really great guy. And he said, I spent 30 years at a job I hated. And I looked at him. This was a big surprise to me, because I just didn't know anything about what he did. I don't know what he did for a living. And I certainly didn't know that he was unhappy for it, because the guy I now knew was a very happy, upbeat guy, a pleasure to be with. And I said, I don't get it. Really? Why did you spend 30 years of your life with something you say you hated? And his answer was basically he let it happen. He gave in to those false gods that ruled him. And it was only after he stopped that he could become the person that I knew as a really nice person, a pleasure to be with, a kind person. And so I think he gave away 30 years, pretty much. And it could be costing him. It could be costing him, like you were talking about. You retired at 65 and died at 66. It could be costing him. I don't know.
Well, exactly. And you remind me of another guy that he was retired and he got on my bus and we started talking, and he said, well, you look like you've been around a while. Are you getting ready to do the 5 years? And I said, what, in the 5 years? And he said, well, yeah, because of the way the pension is, that you take the highest 5 years. And so you work 60, 70, 80 hours a week for 5 years straight so that you can get more money in your pension. And I said, well, how'd that work out for you? And he said, it was the worst mistake of my life.
Yeah. No, these are common stories. These are the truths that are all around us. And The question is, what are we going to do? Who are we going to be? What choices are we going to make? I say that thriving boils down to holding on to your power, the power to make choices about how we spend our time, who we spend our time with, what our habits are, and even our feelings. Are you cynical or are you positive? Those kinds of things. I
It
also
is.
like, since you
Oh, go
mentioned,
ahead.
Kevin, the bus. I say you can be the driver of your own bus. And what that means then is you decide how fast to go, when to stop, when to turn right, when to turn left, who, very importantly, who to invite on your bus. You want to keep building relationships. And sometimes you got to invite people off your bus.
And
That's if you're the driver.
exactly. And sometimes that includes relatives.
It most
And
certainly does.
a lot of people will just say that they'll put up with stuff, but it doesn't serve them. And the cool thing is that you end up replacing those people at one point with people who resonate with you more deeply, and then you can love more deeply and care for them more deeply. It really is magical if you and you're this is a magical life. Do you agree?
Completely so. It's magical if you open your eyes, if you open your heart, if you do the work of figuring out who you are, what's important to you. And then you have the courage to follow through with that in the face of maybe a spouse saying no, or maybe society saying, no, 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 that's not the way to do it. You gotta, work at a drudgery job. That's just the way it is. No, no, I don't buy any of that. I don't buy any of that. And
And
when it
you
comes to ending a relationship, especially if it's somebody like a relative, there's a way to do that that's kind, that you just sort of separate yourself. If it's a friend, you just part ways. You don't have to say, I don't want to be your friend anymore. You're a jerk. No, you say, hey, look, thank you very much. We've been friends for more than 5 years, 10 years, and we've had a lot of great conversation. We've done a lot of really good stuff, but we've kind of moved apart, and I just want to wish you the best.
beautiful.
Right.
And that is the best way to be. If and and stuff. And Rand, we're running out of time, but I gotta ask you, what's next for you? Because there's always something. As you had 4 feet of material, so is there another book in your future?
Well, thanks, Kevin. I am very soon going to be launching the audiobook, which I recorded myself.
Good for
So
you.
that's good. This book, Thriving, has a lot of legs on it. So what's happening is that I realized that there's material that's related to this book that's not in the book. That they're in these conversations that you and I are having right now, and hopefully your listeners are enjoying. And so there's things about what it's taken to have a marriage for 44 years. What is that about? Or this be and do world. It's not in the book quite that way. What does aging well mean? It's about vitality. It's not about longevity. So there's a bunch of things that may ultimately end up in another book. But basically, the next step for me is workshops. I'm
Yes.
very keen to do some workshops. Now, I might have to do some keynotes on the way to get to a workshop, but I'd like to, instead of spending 45 minutes and then some Q&A time with a group, I'd like to be able to work more deeply, whether that's 3 hours or whether that's 2 days. I don't know. I haven't really kind of sorted that out, but I think there's a lot to that. I think it would be a very enriching experience for the people who were in the workshop, and it'd be a lot of fun and valuable for me as well. I could be perfecting my craft, so to speak.
I just had a thought, and I don't know. Anyway, there are groups out there that are social groups. One of them, her husband, her name is Michelle, and she kissed her husband goodbye, and he went on a bicycle ride, and he was run over and he died, and she became a widow, and she didn't realize how stigmatizing it was to be a widow in today's society. So what did she do? She formed a group. It's called the Widows Group, and it's now a nationally recognized group across the country, because what she's doing is she's helping people in transition, and transition of being married to being a widow or a widower is a big transition. I would love to see you do, okay, so you want to retire? How about repurposing or doing something and creating these social groups where people can get together and they can understand all the things that go on with it. Like the marriage relationship will have to change, because if you start if you start organizing the spice cabinet, you're home way too much, and stuff like that. So anyway,
Well,
I would love for you to do that.
Well, thank you. Thanks for suggesting that. Yes, I am, on my website, there's a connect page, and you can invite me into your book group, into your company, into your school, into your, whatever the social group is. I'd be delighted to come, whether it's virtual or physically, and have a discussion. And I would tune it absolutely to the audience. This isn't just a turn on the tape recorder kind of thing.
No, and but it's vital. And it is so necessary. Rand Selig, go to randselig.com and get his book. It's called Thriving: How to Create a Healthier, Happier, and More Prosperous Life. Young man, you're going to have to come back.
Well, I would love to. Can I end with something?
You may.
Do you have time for that?
Yeah.
Well, I started off by talking about my dad, and we talked about him a couple of times. When I went to the house as a trustee to clean it and get it ready to put on the market, I went to his desk, which was, wow, so many papers, and I saw 2 index cards that I said, oh my gosh, I never had seen these before. He'd never mentioned to me, but they're beautiful things. And I'd like to take a minute and just read both of them. They're short. The first one is, in every person, there are 2 wolves fighting. One of joy, love, and happiness. One of anger, hate, and greed. Which wolf wins? The one you feed. So that's one of them. The other one is, work like you don't need the money. Love like no one has ever hurt you. Dance like nobody is watching.
That's a big one.
Sing like nobody's listening.
That's a bigger one.
And live as if this was paradise on earth.
And it is.
Thanks very much.
Rand Selig, thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. Selig, the dad, for putting that out there, because that's a big deal. And I've gone over time, but that's tough. And I want to thank you so much for being here, young man.
Thank you so much, Kevin. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure's all mine. And get the book Thriving, everybody. It's randselig.com, and Thriving: How to Create a Healthier, Happier, and More Prosperous Life. I think it's a goal we'd all love to have. So thank you again, young man. And you'll have to come back and we have to talk more.
Let's do it.
Have a great day, everybody. Thank you for being part of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where stories inspire and voices remind us of what truly matters. May today's conversation give you hope, courage, and a reason to keep moving forward. And just remember, till next time, be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got.